Well, I am back. Whew, this is some kind of a subject. I tell you, I haven't talked about it in a while. I think I talked about it a couple of years ago, along with Prophet Thornton, so that we can kind of talk about a client that we're working together with. But I just want people to kind of get an understanding about this O.B.E, the out of body experiences. You know, we want to make sure that everybody understands the importance of it. So we can't just assume explanations that some people say all this and all that. You know, they got this. And there are different categories. And so I want to start out by saying thank you for even choosing to listen. There is also a necessity for us to wind down. So that's what I've been doing today, winding down from this subject, just making sure from what I have read over the years and dealt with clients that this don't overwhelm me. The fact that it's very difficult with what you see. So my music today, as always, I'm listening to worship piano, and this particular one is called "Move of the Spirit," and it is prophetic instrumental worship. So just for you to go and take some time and listen to that as you chew on what you hear here today. So the O.B.E, out of body experience. These are different categories. I'll give you these four, but there's one last one that I do want you to focus on too that many overlook. And so this can involve in many different ways. So the O.B.E, the out of body experience, is a person that feels as if they have left their body, or they may be observing from the outside of themselves. They feel like I'm here, but I don't feel that I'm here. I'm somewhere else. Though I know my body is here, but I don't feel like I'm here. So, in other words, their soul of who they are is not like I'm talking to you. It's inside of their body, and so they have an out of body experience in different times, in different locations. They may travel, but then the disassociation. Then the dissociation is more like a depersonalization or derealization. Okay, and so when we talk about these, I'm gonna get into those a little bit later on, but this is a psychological term meaning that the person is experiencing where they feel detached, they feel numb, they feel unreal. Okay, they feel that if you touch them, they don't feel like that their body is really real. They're not in their body. But this is not the same as literally traveling somewhere. I want to make sure that's clear. Okay. So, but they feel unreal. They feel that they're not in their body. This is a very serious problem. People have literally killed themselves, and we have had that encounter with a couple of people I've dealt with, and then this is one that I've never had one to kill themselves, but I did this time. But he just couldn't take it no more. But think about this. The third type is the sleep-related experiences. This is where a person have sleep paralysis. They have these vivid dreams. They have this what they call hypnagogic, meaning they're in a hypnagogic, hypnagogic kind of state between sleep and wake. You know, they're like you're drunk. You have these lucid dreams, and you're kind of out of it, which can feel very, very real. But I know a lot of people are having those a lot right now, which is really having people meditate on it a lot to the point that it's really concerning them and worrying them. Number four is the trauma related mental health experience. Okay, a trauma related mental health experience. Now, this is especially really big because these children are getting out of school, and now parents, because most time they're at school, you have a chance now to really observe your children. You know, you have an opportunity now to really spend time. A lot of the people who've lost their jobs or what have you, they're going through some things and they're very distressed, and they may have had this and didn't realize it, but the wives or the husbands and spouses, they're not paying them any attention. But because this is especially prone in children or teens, people under severe stress will encounter this. And this is the reason why I'm bringing this out so that people can really get an understanding. That's why we have so many mental health cases today, because people don't really want to think about it. They just figure, oh, well, I'm just tired, or maybe that was just a dream. But actually, you are in a real O.B.E experience. in these different categories that I'm calling out now. And this particular one is trauma related for whatever reason. Maybe something on the job is bad, or maybe you might not, be in a position to keep your job, or your salary is not meeting the bills, or what have you. But this is between sleep and wake. That means you're in between because you really have this what is called sleep paralysis in these vivid dreams that you may be having. And of course, I also want to make sure that we look at the fifth one that I did not include on here, and that is the spiritual interpretations. Okay, the spiritual interpretations. That means that some people understand in a way that's unusual. They understand unusual experiences through their faith, of course, but these should be approached with discernment and caution rather than assuming that they're prophetic or they're a seer or they have a supernatural title or gift that puts them in that mode. Because this is very important for us to know, and a very important point on this fifth one, because someone having these unusual experiences does not automatically mean that they are prophetic, that they're a seer or they're a prophet. And it also does not automatically mean something spiritual is happening in the way the person or the people may be assuming. Sometimes there may be trauma, there may be sleep disruption, or some type of neurological issue that's causing them to have maybe panic attacks, or these episodes when they're sleeping or waking, things that they have a dissociation with because they want to dissociate, they want to forget the grief, a medication effect. Some of these medicines are causing people to go in these realms, and causing seizures. Some are stress overload, or they may have mental health or medical explanations that needs attention that nobody ever really called out to get the help. You just watching it and think, oh, they going in that mode again. Because you asked for this full part that I know that people need today and have been asking me about these. I came with it, okay? And I pray that you get this music, move of the spirit, and play it as God lets you listen to this and hear. So I want to prepare you for this unusual classroom to get you to understand the differences between the O.B.E versus the dissociation versus sleep paralysis and prophetic claims. Okay, a lot of people are saying that they're prophets about stuff that could be demonic and could be mentally inclined. So I want to hope to talk about some signs and behaviors, some triggers, those trauma things that cause exhaustion and stress and sleep deprivation, all that, the grief that people go into these different places. And then I'm hoping I can talk about how this can affect the children, the teens, and why some wake up exhausted because they travel so many places in their sleep, and they just know that they have literally been in the physical realm, but it's inside of their body that they're traveling. And then why some wake up like that, because they need to understand what to do. And that's why I'm doing this now, to hope that I can get some kind of revelation, what to do, safety steps, when to seek help, that kind of stuff, discernment sections. I'm hoping that, this doesn't mean that someone has a prophetic voice. That's why I'm trying to not step on the toes of those that are apostolic or prophetic, or even those intercessors that are seeing and hearing things. But I want you to understand that these are some reasons I'm doing this, because a lot of people are suffering, and a lot of these children or these teens are saying things like, I feel trapped in my body, I'm not really here, I leave, I'm just not, I just left myself, I don't want to be alive, I feel disconnected and numb. And a lot of times these are mental health stresses that we need to pay a close attention to. So let me jump right on in. I did tell you what OBE is. It's a person that feels as though they have been separated from their physical body and observing from outside of themselves. Okay. And many of the people are saying that I was watching myself, or I was floating above, or I went somewhere, I saw things and my body was there but I wasn't, because that is true. That's really what has happened. From the inside out, they have went. So this can happen in trauma, sleep states, even severe exhaustion, near death experiences. These kind of neurological episodes can happen. And of course, a dissociative state. Sometimes intense spiritual interpretation experiences can come, that I described earlier on, that will cause people to go through these types of phases that move them from the physical body, meaning their inside spirit have moved away. Okay. The second type is depersonalization. So depersonalization, that means a person feels detached from themselves. For example, they might say, I feel unusual, unreal, of course, numb. They're always going to say that I don't feel connected to my body, or I hear myself talking, but I don't feel like me. That means you can hear yourself, but the real true you is inside trapped. Or they might say, I feel like I'm outside of myself emotionally. So that means this person usually knows something feels wrong, but they can't explain it. The third type is derealization. Okay. Now, derealization, this means that the world around them feels unreal. For example, everything looks fake, in which means that you may be my mother, but I don't really feel that. And this is why a lot of them don't know what that means when they're trapped. They just feel like you're not my mama, you're not real. So they may get violent, they may be disrespectful. Everything looks fake, and people seem far away. They feel like their life is like more like a dream, and the room that they're in, the room doesn't feel real either. So this is the reason why a lot of them just really, really can't even have work because of this. And then the fourth one, dissociation. Now, dissociation, this is when the mind disconnects to protect the person from being overwhelmed. So they don't want to think about it. It's almost like grief. You just shut it down. You don't want to think about them no more. You don't want to see no pictures or anything. But the mind disconnects to protect itself from the overwhelm. So this means that oftentimes this is trauma related. So that means, for example, they might start blanking out. They might start losing time. They don't know what time it is. They may think it's evening when it's actually morning, and then they may have some emotional numbness. Even they may feel like that's saying to you, "Yeah, I was there, but not here. You think I'm here? I'm not here." And I was there, but you don't know why I can say that I was there and I was still here. So they might start shutting down because they think that you're talking about them or teasing them because of what they're experiencing. And then they may start feeling trapped inside themselves to the point they don't know what to do. Now, because these children are out of school, I want to talk about why teens and children are very vulnerable to this, and that parents need to begin, especially grandparents and great grandparents, because I'm notorious of always spending time and talking and watching my grands, not just because of a therapist or counselor that I am, but because I believe that these children are really suffering today. A lot of parents are not in good shape because of their own trauma and going through their own challenges, on a day-to-day basis, finances, relationships, and all these kind of things. And violence, we don't want to leave that out, the wrong relationships. But because their brains and nervous systems are still developing, triggers can come, and they can include the triggers from being bullied, going through abuse that may be silent, and the trauma from being abused. I mean, a lot of these parents are beating these children, they're not disciplining them. So they may be traumatized for even thinking about that they should get another beating, because it's not no discipline, it's great beatings. And so we want to also look at the chronic fear that they have behind that, and then the emotional neglect. We talked about that a while back on our call. When we think about those people who have been emotionally neglected so bad that they don't even know what a hug is, or anybody to even care about what they need, because they have never got those needs met emotionally or physically. Okay. And then grief, panic, of course, and panic attacks, and of course, like I said, family violence and sleep deprivation. They're constantly waking up and want to get into bed with you. The identity distress, where they don't really know who they are, or if they do know that they're a boy, they don't really want to be that. They want to be the girl, and vice versa. Or they may have this spiritual fear based kind of teaching. They don't want to hear a whole lot about the Bible because the spirit has got a hold of their mind. We don't want to leave out the pressure to perform. Many of these kids have been put in places where the parent wants them to be performing so they can brag about them and all that. But these kids are being pressured to the point that they're overwhelmed in their minds, so they hide within themselves. And then they get depressed. They have this sensory overload. They have these drug opportunities to be able to get these vaping machines or whatever, vape cigarettes, and put weed in them and stuff like that. We need to understand the children may say, I left, or I'm not there. I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know what to do. I don't feel good, or I watch myself leave. I feel real weird. But they're saying these words because they don't know how to really cry out, but they are in so many words. I'm not really here. I'm floating, mama. I'm floating, daddy. I feel stuck in my body. Nothing feels real to them. So parents often miss this because the child cannot explain it very well. One of the things I feel about is really dangerous misunderstanding in the churches. I'm gonna come back and share that in a few minutes as I continue on in this series. I will be right back. Okay.